Welcome everyone to another episode of the Old-Timers comic book show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. Joining me this time, as always, is the Professor.
Johnny, are you ready for some
Football!
football?
Woo! Now,
Woo!
now the observant of you will know that we're missing the 30th Crusader. I heard a rumor because he lives in the Boston area. I heard that with the Patriots quarterback situation,
Yeah.
I heard you've driven to Foxborough and said, if you give me a number 13 shirt, I'll play for you, coach. Put me in, coach.
Well, I think that he would be trying to lose the game for us.
Yeah, he's a Giants fan, isn't he?
Yes.
Giants.
He
Well,
may be in Massachusetts, but his heart belongs in New York. So.
yeah, fair enough. Fair shout. Fair shout. It is, of course, opening weekend of the NFL. We've already had one game at the time of recording, and Detroit turned over Patrick Mahomes, which is one of probably two quarterbacks my wife knows in the whole NFL. So thank you, Netflix, for that documentary that helped with that no end. It's a good documentary. Check it out. And of course, we're back here to talk about comic books.
Yes.
This time around, we went with a guilty pleasures idea. Now, the idea of a guilty pleasure is that it's something that you really, really enjoy, but really, really you shouldn't. And I'll give you an example, right? That eighth piece of pizza is a guilty pleasure.
There you go. Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't have it, but hey. Who else is going to eat it? Come on.
The Batman and Robin movie, the George Clooney movie. I love that movie. I know I shouldn't, but I really love that movie.
Hey, it's got Robin. It's got Mr. Freeze. It's got the Riddler. No, that's the wrong one, right?
No,
that's the right one? Okay.
Yeah, that's the right one.
Yeah, it's the one with Batgirl, too. Yeah, you shouldn't like that movie. You shouldn't like it.
Go for it. Comic book wise, guilty pleasures. We've got 4 to talk about. Any that didn't quite make the grade for you, Professor, that weren't quite guilty enough?
Yeah, there's one particular one that I didn't pick because it wasn't in timeline. Okay. I absolutely love Runaways, and you know that. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those, it is a guilty pleasure book because it's really not written for me. It's not aimed at me at all. And for some reason, it's not superheroes, really, kind of. It's more soap opera-ish. But I like it. I liked the latest run. I liked the first run. It was interesting to me. That would have been my guilty pleasure pick if we didn't have the 25 years or older rule.
25 rule, yeah. God damn. My pick would have been, I've talked about this on Outside the Panels. My pick that didn't make the grade was the comic strip Leanne. Now, I have no reference of this book at all, this strip at all, other than the fact it's on Go Comics. I think it is, where they do like daily strips. And I was working in this place, and I had so every day I'd log on and I'd scroll through the page with Calvin and Hobbes. Laugh at Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, we all know I love Calvin and Hobbes. And then there's this story about this kid who wants to date this girl, but this girl's dating someone else. He wants to be a firefighter. And I was like, what's this? And then his sister turns up, and then his sister has some friends. I'm like, what is this? what the hell is this? So I found out this comic strip called Leanne, about a sister called Leanne and her brother and all the trials and tribulations the family go through. And again, very much like Runaways, it's not aimed at me. It's not supposed to be. I'm not supposed to read this. But I find myself getting like more and more like involved. Like, is he going to get the girl? And I'm like, is this? Well, I don't get Leanne. Oh, Leanne, I know your friend. You like your friend, but you know. And I'm like, oh man, I ended up buying like a soft cover book collection of it. My wife sat just looking at me, going, "Really?" Like,
any of those daily strips that trick you into coming back the next day, those ones. Those are the ones those are really your guilty pleasures, right? I mean, that's where you start, because you read it and then you're like, I have to find out what happens tomorrow, And
And that's the point. I mean, for me, the best Calvin and Hobbes stories are the ones that are a little bit longer. They have like an ongoing thing, like the Hedgehog
Yeah.
storyline with the Hedgehog.
Oh, the transmogrifier device. That's my favorite. That's my favorite run with a
Yeah,
cardboard box.
just
That's
turn on the
fantastic.
side. It's a duplicator. Yay!
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's not to say that the one a day doesn't work. Of course it does. That's the beauty of that sort of stuff. But you're right. It's that kind of guilty comeback. When we talk about proper, I suppose, full comic books, I could argue that Miss Marvel or maybe that Spider Woman's run from the 70s could fall within that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really hard to quantify, and this is kind of where we're at to. So, 4 books, 4 guilty pleasures. What did you say to me before the show?
Reading these books for the podcast today, there was
Yeah.
not a lot of pleasure involved. I just felt guilty. So
How'd you pick 2 of them?
yeah,
What's
you
that
made me pick
say?
2 because 13's not here. So we have to pick 2
Yeah,
books. The first one was hard enough, and I kind of got a giggle out of it because sometimes I like to throw a book at you that I know you're gonna not like, which you ended up liking actually. So
I love the first book. The first book's right in my wheelhouse.
yeah, the second one was kind of a throwaway, but
No,
you
this
know,
book, I absolutely love this book. I love the team. I love the characters. I love the ideas behind it. I love the relationship between everybody. This was a stellar book. Um, everyone's
hey.
there. It is Power Pack. Everyone's like, what?
Well, I mean, yeah, if there are any of the newer viewers that haven't read comics in a long time, I don't know why you'd be listening to this show, but Power Pack was actually kind of a big thing back in the late '80s, mid
It
'80s,
was.
right?
It was. Let me give you the stats. This is Power Pack number 1 from August '84 on eBay. You can get this is quite interesting. On eBay, you can get a 9.6 for £65. All right.
Really?
Yeah. On Go Collect, I don't know if I've been reading Go Collect wrong. I've decided instead of giving you the high end price, I'm going to give you the annual average. So this is what the book normally goes for. Take a guess how much?
Uh, is it? It can't be $50. It's got to be
$65. And I was
really.
like, really? Hmm.
Huh.
All right. So it's written by Louise Simonson, art by June Brigman, inks by Bob. Is it Wycheck? Is that how you
Wyatt
pronounce
check.
it? Wycheck.
Yep.
Joe Rosen's on letters and colors by Glynis Wen. So a bit of that back end of the creators list is a kind of murder's row for Marvel of the time.
Mm-hmm.
June Brigman, do you know what her other claim to fame is other than Power Pack?
No. What is it?
The first female artist to draw the X-Men,
Really?
allegedly.
I don't know which issue. Was it an annual
I
backup
think
story or
I
something?
think it's like a Paul Smith issue, something like that, somewhere around that era.
Okay.
I'll double check and get the numbers for you. But
Yeah, no, I recognize the name from Power Pack because she did I think the first year or two of
yeah,
those.
she was on and off this first 17 issues on and off. So
Okay.
it gives about a year, doesn't it? Cool.
Yeah.
So why did you pick this book? Can't be Suli for Sweezy, was it?
For Louise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I loved Louise on this book. I loved her. I mean, she left this book to go do a little book called X Factor.
Another good book.
Another good book. But this book really, I think it was a passion project, and just to see the care I think she puts into these characters and the development of of all the kids in the book. This the reason I'm not supposed to really like this book is because it's just kids having fun, and I mean, I don't know how much fun they're having in this book, but half this book is just the kids getting to know them, having their fights with each other, about like fighting over the dishes, and like wanting to sleep out on the porch because of the UFOs, and actually, they were doing kid stuff and they acted like kids. And that's so, I mean, try finding something these days where the kids actually act like children, you know? it's to me, I think the characterization is spot on. The relationships between the brother and sister, and brother and sister, and the kids, all the kids with their parents. You don't really see much of that relationship in this first issue, but throughout the whole entire series, the relationships with the parents is key.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
getting, these kids are dropped right into the middle of a war between the Chimerians and the Snarks, and the horse-looking heroes, superhero type race,
Yeah.
and the Snarks that look like lizard slash praying mantis creatures. Um, so they obviously look like villains. The horses
Mm.
look like heroes, and even the ships look like each other.
Yeah, it
it's
should.
really kind of
Yeah.
funny. And the introduction of like an intelligent spaceship, which we've seen a bunch of since then, but
Yeah.
here we hadn't really seen a lot of a ship that was sentient and that was helpful to the
Mm.
kids. And Friday, the ship actually
The
sticks around for a majority of the run.
Friday, obviously used in the current, in the MCU as Tony Stark's new
Yes.
Jarvis. So that
Yep.
made me kind of smile. When I say this book came out, 84 ish.
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
1984.
So you've got, if you talk about sentience, there's only one thing kicking around multimedia that was sentient at the time. You're talking Knight Rider, the idea of a car that could talk back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you think again, 1984, there was not really a lot of, or if any, space stuff going on, cosmic stuff going on in Marvel. They were pretty much had jettisoned that whole idea of I mean, unless maybe you're talking ROM, right? ROM Space Knight. But
yeah.
even then, that was fringe
Yeah.
stuff going on.
There weren't yet there weren't Infinity Gauntlets or anything kicking around at that point.
Infinity Gauntlet. So you're still 8 years away from the
Yeah,
Infinity
exactly.
Gauntlet.
And then
Yeah.
the Fantastic Four that weren't married with any Skrull wannabes hanging around. So you're absolutely right. This was probably, Marvel's most street level time.
Yep. So so being able to see, especially like page 1 is in space with the Chimerian, is it Chimelians or Chimerians? I think it's Chimelians and the Snarks. That first page is just like, okay, well, this is going to be a bit different from anything that Marvel's publishing at the time. And then you spend most of the book with the kids before they get their powers, and they get their powers. They don't really get them until the end of the book, and then it's a question of what exactly are they, what exactly are their powers, and how do they work, and once they do get their powers, the book actually I think it kind of gets a little more superhero-ish, and kind of the relationships between the kids. Now it's just about their powers, but I loved the relationships between the kids. I thought Louise was on point. This is probably one of the best writing, one of her best writing stints. So
I agree.
Even
what? Sorry.
Even compared to X Factor, which I thought she was spot on. I think this is better.
Interesting. I love this book. My introduction to Power Pack, they were a backup feature in a Marvel UK Return of the Jedi comic. And so you maybe get like 4 or 5 pages a week of this story, and I flicked through it. I wasn't that bothered about it, and I kept whatever. Anyhow, six weeks on, I open up the book and there's like the kids are doing this, the kids are doing that. I'm like, what's going on? What are these kids all about? So I go all the way back and read from the start. So I was really impressed. This book works so well. I'm not sure who it's aimed at. If this book was out now, it'd be like dumbed down, and kids would have to just read it, and we adults wouldn't get anything out of it at all. But back in the day, this story, the way the kids interact with each other, Jack gets a proper hate on himself because he thinks his powers are pants. He absolutely hates his powers. He thinks he's useless, and he ends up, of course, saving the day. Alex with economies, he says OG all the time. He said it before he even got his powers, but there it is. The interaction between the kids, it makes this book work for me.
Yeah.
And I'd say the art. I think June Brigham's art here is absolutely gorgeous. It is so mature for this type of book that you're kind of like, whoa, where's that come from? And I'm blown away. I'm blown away at just how mature and how well. I mean, the kids. Look at the kids. That each kid has their respective size down pat, and that doesn't change.
The thing about the art for me, and I think we talked about this before about how difficult it is for an artist to draw kids that look like kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we've talked about that before, and I think, yeah, you're right. Like each kid, they look like kids, they act like kids, they're properly portrayed. The other thing that I was thinking about isn't this concept like tailor made for Disney Plus? Where have we not? Why haven't we not seen something like this?
That is a really good question. I would watch the hell out of a Power Pack show. I absolutely totally would.
Yeah.
I want Louise Simonson to be in on it somewhere because I think, you know.
Yeah, well, you'd want that. But
I mean, the kids are popular. They've been around recently as well, though, haven't they? They're part of that whole superhero curfew thing that was going on a couple of years back in Marvel.
Yeah, the Outlaws.
Yeah.
They showed up briefly there, but they've actually kind of aged the kids a little bit, haven't they? Like because they did something with Lightspeed in the Avengers book, where her sexual orientation was determined, so they had to age her up for that because in here they're all preteen, so they had to age her up a few years. But it was kind of funny because they aged Alex was part of the Fantastic Four book for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up disappearing with the rest of the Fantastic Four for all those years, right? He went with them, but so I can see him being aged up a little bit, but they never aged up Katie because she's always like a 5-year-old kid.
Yeah,
whenever you see.
She's always the youngest of the bunch, therefore.
Yeah, but that's where I kind of think that this is a book that I'm surprised that Disney hasn't snatched this up yet.
I have a question for you then. Thinking about this book. This book is from the 80s, so comic code's still in effect, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids in peril in this book, as there is throughout the series. What is it, do you think, that made the code set? You used to bring out some ridiculous rules. We've talked about this on a previous show. But the idea of putting 4 kids on an alien space, getting transmogrified with superpowers and getting chased by another alien species, hey, that's just fine.
Well, if you remember that, I mean, this is 1984, and by this time the code was largely ignored, right? And I think the Swamp Thing issue that we talked about was 1984 when DC just decided to publish it without the code. So whatever. I think they're realizing that the code had its time, was of its time, as we say.
The whole book works. I mean, when you see the family talking around in the table and they're doing the work, I can't help but think that's a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like when I think cinematics, and when I think that's why I brought it up with Disney. Like, why don't we have an MCU Power Pack yet? Don't you think?
That's pure Spielberg. That's E.T.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
100%. You know what? For guilty pleasure, that was both guilty and pleasure. That was a spot-on choice. You pulled one out there like nobody's business. A little bit of housekeeping to run. June Brigman was the penciler of the X-Men book 204. Whatever happened to Nightcrawler?
Okay.
You might remember it. It's got a lovely cover with him being all swashbuckling, leaning and kissing a redhead that you think is actually Rachel Summers because she was kicking around there. You're like, what are you doing kissing Rachel Summers?
No, it was
And
Amanda Sefton.
Sorry?
It's Amanda Sefton, isn't it?
Oh, it is eventually, yeah. But back in the day, I was like thinking, where's he kissing Rachel Summers? But, never judge a book by its cover. No. Which is what we shouldn't do with this next book. All right, his presence is missing, of course, but his ideas are ever present. He is the 13th Crusader, and he has chosen for his guilty pleasure, of which he can not vouch for it in any single way because it's not here, but made us read it anyway.
In protest, I only read the first issue.
In protest, I'm not sure if I made it through the whole of the first issue. I'm joking. It's this. This is Wild Dog, part 1 of a 4-part miniseries. It's from September '87. Now, this one's a little bit ropey. You can get the whole 4-issue set for the princely sum of £3.99 on eBay. I would suggest that paying £1 a comic for this book is a little steep, but what do I know? Go collect average is $20 at 9.6. Go figure. The price of a #1. Written by Max Collins, art by Terry Beatty, inks by Dick Giordano. John E. Workman is on letters, and Michelle Wolfman is on colors. We talked about Max Collins last time around, if I remember correctly.
I know we mentioned Max Collins, but I can't remember the context in which we mentioned him.
He's in that. It was in 13th book, the Marvel one that had lots of different, the black and white, lots of different stories going on.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. What was it called?
I was
Empire Esquire.
It was in the Eclipse book. The
Eclipse. There you go.
Yeah, the Eclipse anthology book.
And I said Max Collins did a great job on crime stories, and he's written
he was the follow-up to Chester Gould on the Dick Tracy strip. When Chester retired, Max Collins took it over for many years.
So this is Wild Dog. Now, for all you recent comic book aficionados and everyone who likes the CW, you'll think Wild Dog, yes, it's Rene. No. Let's dispel that straight away. This is not Rennie Ramirez from the Arrow TV show. This is someone completely different. And if I would say, this is probably, and without 13th to defend him, I would have to say this is probably DC's attempt to do the Punisher. Am I wrong with that assumption?
100%. I mean, so 1987 is when I think that's when the Punisher launched his regular series, which, you know, I guess the country really had been kind of moving towards the anti-hero like that, and DC didn't really have many anti-heroes. They had the Vigilante, right?
Yeah, Lobo.
Lobo wasn't around in '87.
Was he not?
He wasn't big. He wasn't like big yet. He was still He was running around in the Omega Men, and he wasn't. Yeah, that's.
Look at you. You're absolutely right. Lobo's first appearance was Omega Men 3, June '83. I think the Professor deserves a round of applause for that. Well done. This is why we call him the Professor. Well done.
Well, anyway, yeah. I mean, this book. I mean, the first issue, anyway. It's it is paint by numbers, right? It's kind of like a step by step through. It's a setup, and then the bad guy shows up. Bad guy takes hostages. Bad guy, spews his manifesto, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes the vigilante character.
Yeah, Wild Dog, come on.
Wild Dog, who I believe is that mechanic guy, because I know on that.
He is.
Yeah. So.
Not reading.
Wheeler. I can't even. Wheeler. Yeah, I can't even spoil it for you because I didn't read past issue 1, so I don't know who he is.
It's him. I guarantee you, spoil it. It's him. Yeah. Who is this superhero? Is it Sarge? No. Is it Rosemary, the telephone operator? No.
Oh,
Is it the mechanic called Jack down the street? Could be.
could be Jack.
What a stupid name for a mechanic, Jack. Come on.
But
Someone must be
Wheeler.
smoking.
Oh yeah,
someone
Jack
must be
Wheeler.
someone must be smoking something there. Gotta be. Gotta be. Come on. We need a mechanic name. What is there? Spark plug's been taken for Transformers. What else? What else have we got?
Well, wait till we get to one of the other books we're going to review for names.
Don't get me started. Do not get me started. Um, you said paint by numbers, and it is by the numbers. It is, and I wish he was here to defend it because this is mundanity. This is the thing about comics that really narc me.
Yeah.
They come up with this hey, new character, and then they do this. I mean,
It's just like the colors are so pedestrian too. I mean, just
the backgrounds
bland.
that do my head in.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm going back into the book, sorry, right at the start. There's hardly any background anywhere. And I'm like, well, come on, guys, at least put the effort in. The art, I'm really sorry to call out Terry Beattie on this. But even with Dick Giordano on inks, this is terrible.
Yeah.
The poses are awful. There's some decent facial work on there, but then you're not reading this to see somebody grimace. I mean, come on. What's that? Did you just knock over the paint pen?
There's a lot of that in here. After this page, it's like, look at, he's got like the.
It's like. All right, so Freya, I don't know if you watch TDC, but Freya on TDC, she is our resident art critic, and she pulls up all sorts of crazy crap. So, for example, if Freya was here right now, she'd be like saying, "What's that shooting out of that guy's chest?" Because obviously the Wild Dog characters missed him because she's firing up the stairs and the guy's falling backwards. So obviously he hasn't hit him. So somebody else must have shot him. If Freya was here, but she wasn't.
You know what was going on in 1987 that probably made this character feasible? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis. The era of the cinematic beefcake action hero, and that's what this is supposed to be.
I mean, this is terrible. Well, look at that pause. And look, I mean, he's hit him so hard, he's knocked himself, he's twisted himself around like that, and he's dislocated his knee and his ankle. Well, just like hitting him in the head. Amazing work.
But wouldn't you hit him on the right side of the head if you're swinging the right fist?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But then he's dancing when he's kicking you.
Yeah. Obviously, must be Russian. And yes, I can say that there's a war going on. All right, I can say that. It's fine. It's awful. It's an awful, awful book. And I don't know what on earth he was doing picking this book other than the fact he's making our lives hell. 13th, I'm going to come for you, my friend.
You should feel guilty. You should feel guilty.
You should be guilty and there's no pleasure whatsoever. That said, I think Al Mega likes this book as well.
Really?
I don't know what goes on with it, but for me,
it is. We got to think. This came out in 1987. We're all still teenagers. This is, I'm still a teenager.
Yeah, 16.
Yeah. So I mean, come on. When I saw Wild Dog on the stands when I was a kid, the hockey mask thing, that was very Jason Friday the 13th ish. So it was instant. I was like, is this a horror? But this is Jason Voorhees with guns. And, I thought that the idea was cool. But my first exposure to Wild Dog was not the limited series. The first exposure to Wild Dog was he had a backup in the Action Comics weekly, if you remember that.
I love that book.
Yeah, I liked it when it was weekly because you got
4
stories, right?
Yeah.
4 or 6 stories, I can't remember, but Wild Dog had a weekly story in that, and I mean, I imagine it was probably better than the limited series. But.
Well, and I suppose For me, back in the 87, I was out of comics at the time. I hadn't bought a comic for ages. If I was buying comics, I was buying something recognizable. I would not have picked up Wild Dog in a million years. It'd be the sort of book that I would see in a 10 pence or a 10-cent bin, and I'd be like, I'm saving my 10 cents.
Yeah. I just remember thinking that, like, what kind of a fashion atrocity is this with the camo pants and the bright blue shirt? How much of a bigger target could he have made himself than the blue hockey jersey?
13, if you're watching this whilst you're trying out for the Patriots, please, by all means, let us know why you picked this and if there was a redeeming factor. All right, just let us know, and I don't want to give it that much more airtime the next time you're around, but
he picked it because he wasn't going to be here to review it.
Is that what he said?
All right, no, okay. No. That's what I'm saying.
All right, okay. Well, I'm going to wait. I'm going back to Ibiza next July. Don't you worry. I'll have some books picked. Remember, there's another year on from that, so that 25 years stint can get a little bit.
There we go.
Threats aside, there you go. 2 up, 2 down. Time for one of our adverts. Where shall we go? I like the K-pop one, but there's not a K-pop show this month. They're taking a sabbatical. They're back for October, so we'll prime you on that one. I think, you know what, it has to be Crisis, right? We love the Crisis one.
Sure, that's my favorite.
Stay tuned for Stay Puffed. There you have it, Crisis in the Toyverse. What a fantastic trailer for a great, great show. Yes, he takes them out of the box, just like this guy does. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's a. I have a question for Bobo if he ever listens to the show. I would want to know what he does with his toys when they're not on display.
Oh, that's a good call. That is a good call.
Because I'm running into a space issue of where exactly do I keep them all? Because I can only display a few of them at a time, and I have way more than I probably should.
I could show you some of mine, but it's kind of messy. I don't really want to. But
I mean, I open all of my toys too.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
I don't have I have to open them because I don't really have space to keep stuff in box. I have a couple of things in box, but usually they're just figures floating around, like I just showed you.
Cool. All right. It's a question for Bobo. We'll get that answered for you. Where do you store your toys? The question isn't the way you store the toys when you're not unsure. For me, it's where you put all the little bitty bobby bits.
Oh, I have like bags. Like I put all the extra pieces. Yeah.
See, you sound like my wife. My wife's the type of person who goes into a store and buys a canister for the coffee, tea bags, and sugar. And it always makes me laugh that we have these canisters because when you buy coffee, tea bags, and sugar, you get the coffee and you get the canister that it's already in for free. Buy the figure, get a handy little box where the figure can be stored for free. It's called the packaging.
Yeah, but then the packaging becomes a little unwieldy, and like when you have like 200 figures, what do you
Oh my God! All right,
hey.
Bobo, please save us, Save the Professor's toy collection. Excellent. All right, so next up is the Professor's second choice, and confession time from me. I didn't make it all the way through, man.
I have to tell you that
you didn't either.
Yeah, no, this book didn't hold up. I remember kind of getting a couple of giggles out of it back in when did this book come out?
No, it's good. This book came out in May 1982. You can get this book off eBay for around £8. You have to get it imported from the States, though. Go Collect have it for $40. Now, $40 for this book, or you can buy 2 copies of Wild Dog #1. It's your choice, folks.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
It's written by Roy Thomas, who should have known better. Scott Shaw's on art, Bob Smith's on ink, Todd Klein's on letters. It is a DC book after all. And colours are by Carl, not Frank, Gifford. Had to get the football jibe in there somewhere, right? It is the first week of the season. All right. Other than making me tear my hair out, thank God I've had it cut since it was long. Why on earth did you pick this?
Because traditionally I like funny animal comics. What can I say?
Peter Parker's better than this.
I am not arguing with you, sir. I am a fan of funny animal comics generally, which made me say, hey, we've never reviewed Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. I just would imagine that I would love all of the tongue-in-cheek little pun jokes that we're going to get out of this book. The funny thing, or not so funny thing, is they play this book kind of straight. They play it not for laughs a lot. No. You have Superman in there who's being his Silver Age Superman self, right?
Yeah.
And they even discuss the fact that this is a different Earth, an alternate Earth.
Yep.
So I'm sitting there going, this isn't really, I don't need you to explain to me that this is how this fits in the regular DC universe. It's a bunch of cartoon character superheroes. Just play it like that, just play it like you're having fun with the whole genre, which is really what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's supposed to be tongue in cheek. It's supposed to be like hey, let's laugh at how daft the idea of a superhero is.
Yeah, but they didn't really laugh at the whole idea of the superhero thing. They create a bunch of different templates. So you have your Flash character, your Zatanna character, your whatever character you want to fit in. But I kind of, I think some of these characters like Pig Iron, come on, that's a kind of a funny little animal thing. But then by the time you get to the end of the book, when they're pulling out Rubber Duck and Yankee Poodle and
right, okay,
Alley Catdabra, I'm like, come on, that is a mouthful already, and it's like by that's the joke. Those are the jokes. That's it. That is the names. The rest of it is like a straight up serious superhero comic.
So here's the full rundown of the Zoo Crew, all right, including their alter egos. You have Roger Rodney Rabbit, who had to be called Rodney as not to avoid confusion with who framed Roger Rabbit.
Right, but he predates Roger Rabbit.
I don't know. Well, obviously one's more popular than the other.
Well, yeah.
You've got Felina Fur, who's as was mentioned, Ali Catabra. Peter Porkchops is Pig Iron. Bird Rentals is Rubber Duck. Rover Barkett, great name, is Yankee Poodle. Jimmy Joe Terrapin is Fastback, because he's a turtle. Chester Cheese is Little Cheese. And finally, my personal favourite, Johnny Jingo, the American Ingo.
Well, the last two didn't even show up in this book.
You're killing me.
Who's the last one?
The American Eagle is a radio talk show host with 2 right wings by day and a vigilante by night.
Okay.
He replaces Little Cheese after Little Cheese dies. He is
What?
the yeah,
They actually kill off one of these funny animal characters? How do they
uh-huh.
die?
He is the only member of the team who does not have superpowers, though of course he uses gadgets similar to those used by Batman. There you go. I'm a little bit more up to date with the character and his gang. About 18 months ago, they featured Injustice Incarnate, an ongoing continuity DC book where the Justice Leagues from the multiverse, each Earth, sent characters to take on a really big, vicious bad guy. So I've seen some Captain Carrot recently.
It, the thing that amazed me really, because like I was saying, I was expecting this tongue-in-cheek type of
Mhm.
satirical story, which we do kind of get in their origin stories, which you have to sit through every single one of them in this book, which is that's already kind of a chore. But the villain in the book is legit Starro, like
Yeah.
legit Starro, and I was reading this and I'm like, okay, so this apparently, given the backstory, this is Starro's second appearance. Did Starro make any other appearances other than Brave and the Bold in between that and this book? Because you didn't get much backstory.
Right. He was in a Justice League book around the 180s with a Brian Bolland cover. If I can dig that out.
But was 180s after this?
I'm going to check now.
So the funny thing is you get a lot of in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of serious Starro is taking over the world with the Justice League Europe and stuff. You remember those
Yeah.
Starro books?
I apologize. It was 190. It was 190 we made his appearance in the Justice League, and that was in 1981.
Okay, so just
So
before this then.
so when did this come out?
1982.
Yeah. So yeah, you could argue it's the third appearance of Starro.
So the thing is they beat Starro by putting salt on him.
Well, why not? He's a crustacean.
Or limestone or something. Limestone. They put limestone on it.
It's I didn't mind this panel actually. I thought this panel was a nice little throwback to the original Starro.
Yeah, that's the cover to Brave and the Bold, right?
Yeah. So I didn't mind that so much. But for me, you know how bad the book is when you prefer the Hostess advert or the Twinkies advert.
You're like, thank God there's a break in this book, and I get to see Batman take care of who's the name of this guy? The canine?
Do you know what we should do? We should have a show just based on the Hostess ads and the Twinkies ads.
That would be fun.
That would be cool. There'd be some great ones on there.
And we'd have to break down who drew them, because
I don't think they don't have a lot of. I know Frank Miller did a few, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how. And probably Garcia Lopez did some. Marvel didn't have a range of Hostess ads, did they? Or
They had some.
Were they Hostess? They were Hostess, and DC was Twinkies. Was that how it worked?
Well, Hostess was Twinkies.
I don't know. I'm not.
It says Hostess Twinkies right on it.
So there's two different ones, isn't there?
They used to do like the fruit pies and the Hostess cupcakes and all that stuff.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
it was all the same stuff.
Yeah, it's all the same stuff. But no, I would love to do a show based on those because some of those are class. Absolutely. As for this, oh my God. I know we've talked about Peter Parker in the past, and I like Peter Parker. I thought Peter Parker was really funny.
Yeah.
And Spider-Ham, because you know what? As you said, Professor, they play it for laughs. They tell you going in, this is going to be a funny book. We're laughing at ourselves. And you go in and you're like, oh, look, it's quite funny. They're laughing at themselves. Great. Captain Carrot, if there's a reason why I've not being vegetarian, it's because of this book. It's crazy. I'm going to keep eating meat because of you, Captain Carrot. Bollocks to you, my friend. Bollocks.
Well, I apologize because I did that. I was coming from the idea of satirical, funny animal comics, and this was neither of those things. It was an animal comic, but that was about it.
I wish the creators had done that, but it just proves, doesn't it, that not every creator, even the best creators, have like a kind of an off day where they think this is a really great idea, and then
Yeah.
years later you go back and think, what? I mean, this is Roy Thomas. I mean, Roy Thomas was, you know,
Well, he
big
explains in
Roy.
the back. There's a panel he does. He does a column, and he explains that he's always loved funny animal books, and then he starts talking about Mighty Mouse, and I'm like, maybe that makes a little sense, because when I watch Mighty Mouse was never really satirical. Mighty Mouse was a serious cartoon with he just happened to be a mouse.
Yeah, it's
And
Superman, but of the
yeah,
very Fleischer style imagery. It's like the
yeah,
punching energy blasts back and stuff. Mighty Mouse was class.
yeah. But I think that this book reminded me more of Mighty Mouse than it did of any other funny animal thing. So, but whatever it is, I was expecting Tom and Jerry, and I got something else. So.
For the record, there's a tenor character in the book doesn't wear fishnets. For the record, that would not have helped. Just saying. All right. The book that made me think of that whole idea. Characters, I'd put down in something, I can't remember if it was on the show a while ago or in something else. I'd mentioned that this character is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. I love this character, and I'm not sure I should, but she's had plenty of different incarnations, and this was probably one of the most controversial, given that her Earth 2 cousin was still kicking around at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It is Supergirl #1. This is from September '96. You can get this for as little as £8.99 on eBay. Although somebody is trying to sell it for £140. Good luck with that. Tell me if you get that, will you, please? The Go Collect average in the States has it at $32, which I think is a fair price for a book that's nearly 30 years old. So that's cool. It's written by Peter David, art by Gary Frank, inks by Cam Smith. Pat Pretense is on letters, and Gene D'Angelo is on colors. Everyone knows, if you've been listening to me prattle on about comics for a while, how much I love Peter David. This book doesn't feel like a Peter David book off the bat because it's not as funny as you'd expect it to be. David's really good with the one-liners and so on, but it's a kind of a introduction, not to Supergirl per se, but to Linda Danvers, not Kara Danvers. So Linda Danvers is a young girl who gets mixed up with the wrong crowd, almost gets killed. The Supergirl in the book isn't the Kara Zor-El Supergirl, it's Matrix, which is a shape-changing entity that forms the Supergirl image and then dates Lex Luthor for a while. In order to save the girl, Matrix bonds with her and becomes Linda. And as such, the memories are all screwed with, and everything's a little bit foggy for the girls. Who's Linda? Who's Supergirl? How's it work? Very similar, I feel, to some of the early Miss Marvel books from the 70s, where Carol Danvers was a complete identity away from the Kree version of Miss Marvel. The two were quite separate. And again, that idea runs through all the way to Rogue, when Rogue absorbs Miss Marvel's power once Carol's acclimatized and brought her two sides together. You have that whole, Carol sometimes takes control, Rogue's in control most of the time, and so on. And so I like that kind of duality in the book. There's a cast of characters, kind of like a Peter Parker-y type thing. She's a college kid. She's trying to, fit in. There are some shaky supernatural shenanigans going on. But I thought this book was a really good kind of, not a who done it, but what done it is probably the best way to explain it. The art, Gary Frank, from this book on, is going to end up being one of the premier Superman artists. I think Gary Frank had already been on the Hulk at this time. Is that right?
No, no. Well, no, yes, you are right. You are.
Yeah, because he was with Peter David. So the two are used to working together, and for me, along with Power Pack, this was the Power Pack and this were the two picks of the week. Absolutely,
Oh, 100%.
This was
100%.
You're not supposed to like Supergirl because she's not Kara, but you end up liking her. You understand Linda's problems. You know, she's got some family stuff going on. She's got Supergirl's trying to find her identity against, is she Supergirl or is she Matrix? You know, and that plays out over a series of years in issues. This book lasts for ages, and you know what? I have a whole stack of them that I bought, and it is absolute fantastic read. I love this book. It's one of the reasons why I like Supergirl. There you go.
You know, we talk a lot about creative teams, and every once in a while you get that creative team that captures lightning in a bottle with a certain character. And you know, when you say guilty pleasure, you're right. You know, with this, and not the Kara Zor-El Supergirl. This is the different. This is the protoplasmic blob Supergirl.
Yeah, the Matrix one. Yeah,
it was just like the throwaway Supergirl, really.
Yeah,
you know, and that's really where I think the difference is here, because I mean that's Peter David's really trying to, you know, at this point in 1996, there were a lot of creators that were trying to fix characters that were broken in Crisis.
Well, you know what? You're not wrong. Superman had died. Batman had his back broken. They were trying to combat the ultra-violent kind of.
They're trying to fix Hawkman for forever. You know, so I mean, Supergirl was one of those characters that was, I guess, disrupted, you would say, by Crisis. So here you have, you know, arguably, and my question really to you is this Peter David's first DC work?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. It could well be. Let's see if we can find out whilst we're talking. Peter David's first DC.
So, I mean, unless it was something for Star Trek, but
no, he wrote. Well, that's a start as well. So he was on Trek for a while. His first stuff was Aquaman miniseries, The Atlantis Chronicles. There you go.
Okay. Which I remember that being kind of not good, but anyway.
But he was writing Trek for a while. So
was he writing Trek, but he was still writing stuff for Marvel too?
Yeah, so he was. Yeah, but it was like a twofer. So
all right, and
of course we know Peter David because he wrote. We talked about it recently, The Death Machine, The Wolf.
Yep. Yeah, he did. He did some really good Spider-Man stuff. He was on Hulk forever.
Yeah.
And then of course, I think everything. Oh, he went back and he did Captain Marvel, the Genesis version. Yep. Oh yeah, it's a huge run on X Factor. I think the run. And we just already talked about Louis Simonson on X Factor, but I think Peter David came in, and when they changed the team up, and he brought in Strong Guy, and he brought in Madrox, the Multiple Man, and Havoc and Polaris, and that team has really got a special place in my heart. So
I agree with you.
So, but having Gary Frank here, really kind of, he got his start over across the pond, right, Johnny, in the Marvel UK.
He did.
And when he starts doing, and what was he doing over there? Death's Head?
Death's Head.
Okay.
Death's Head, therefore.
Yep. And here, I mean, once he comes over on Hulk, and he does Supergirl and Superman, and then he did the Squadron Supreme or something over Marvel, the Max title, right?
Well, I don't know from that point, but I mean, the guy's prolific. I mean, he works with Jeff Johns on practically anything. They do stuff for Image together. They did the Doomsday Clock, so
yeah.
Which, take it or leave it, regardless of the story and how long it goes on and its publication history, the art is still gorgeous. So this is, for me, the beginning of Gary Frank's career, kind of extrapolated out over a period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough, you could argue if the left arm's a little bit too short for the rest of her body, but that's a great picture. That's an up and away, right?
Yeah. No, it's great. I have nothing bad to say about Gary Frank's artwork. I would even say that, I don't. He got stronger as time went on. I don't know if I actually loved his stuff on Death's Head, but seeing him in the Marvel universe or DC universe proper, I became a big fan. So
very clean lines, very classic looking. Just the whole thing works, and this first issue is just the tip of the iceberg. If you like Supergirl and you thought to yourself, "Oh, really?" Go back, check this out, because you know what? It might not be Kara Zor-El, but she's fantastic. Linda's decent. You know what? It's a good little run. It's not massively expensive either. So
I actually have this book, Johnny. So this was a good call, because I remembered unexpectedly really liking Supergirl when I started buying the book, and this was in '96. I think I was buying just about everything on the stands that was coming out. So it was surprising to me how much I actually liked the book. And cool. So when you picked that one and I saw the cover, my first initial reaction was like, does this make the cut on the time frame?
I checked before I said it.
Yeah. And then I was like, wow, I can't believe it was that long ago that this book is
so. What's that, 27 years I think it makes, so it just sneaks in.
It makes the cut by a couple of years, so it's good.
But 27 years, man. There you go. There you have it. 4 up, 4 down. 2 that I thought were absolutely splendid.
And you're the one that didn't think this one was going to go an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say at the start before we started recording, I was like, we've got 4 books, 2 are great, 2 are pants. It's never going to last an hour. And we're like, what? We're running out of time now. So, guilty pleasures, whatever they are, whatever your guilty pleasures, comic book wise, are, don't listen to people who say you shouldn't like it, man. Just if it's your thing, just buy it, read it, love it. That's how it works. That's why we love comic books in the first place, right?
There's something for everybody.
Exactly. 57 varieties. Professor, thank you so much for spending the time. I really do appreciate it, as always.
Thank you, Johnny.
I have to say, and I don't know if I said it enough, this is my favorite time of my podcasting week. Without
Johnny, mine too.
Doing Ol'Timers just always makes me smile. No matter how grumpy I am, always makes me smile. So
it's because this is probably your only podcast where you get to pick the book.
Yeah. There's that. Don't forget to check out UCPN for all your favorite shows. You saw the trailer for it earlier. Crisis in the Toyverse. And the Professor, what else?
No Prize Podcast, which is all about Marvel, the MCU, Disney Plus, and we do sneak in some comics from time to time.
Watch out for the recent episode. There's a bit of a sound thing going on. But that said, there's a ton of Ahsoka theories, ideas. And guys, get your physics books out. You're going to need it for that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Yep.
And of course, don't forget MPP's sister show, The Definitive Crusade, all about DC Comics. Nobody on that show goes to the movies, apart from me. So check it out for all your latest DC comic news. Right, I can see the clock is ticking. I can see the anthems being sung.
We are ready for some football.
And with that, as always, I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. Adios.